Welcome back to another episode of Stupid Shit You Shouldn't Do If You Want to Keep Your Therapy License. Today's episode begins with a promising psychology intern who is working at the Department of State Hospitals here in California. Now, here she is working with inmate patients, among others, and manages to work her way through to various levels of promotion, getting her clinical psychology license, and eventually even being promoted to senior psychologist specialist, working again with inmates at the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. After a few years working there, she's transferred back to her old position at Department of State Hospitals, but now as a staff psychologist since she's licensed, but still interestingly continues visiting one of the inmates she was previously working with. Generally speaking, according to policy and procedure, this is unusual, and that's why correction officers begin to investigate. And during their investigation, they start finding some concerning discrepancies. For example, in the patient inmate's possession, they find a number of items such as, a notebook with the therapist's personal phone number in it next to the words "my angel," and her home address next to the word "wifey." And they find her name on a deposit slip that is putting money into the inmate account. The patient also has at least 4 letters written to the therapist, possibly 8, with the therapist's address on them and, 4 photos of the therapist. The correction officers start pulling the phone logs where they can actually listen to the calls and hear the patient speaking to the therapist about how they're agreeing to have his brother hand letters off between the two of them. During follow-up meetings with this person's program director, back when she was working at the psychiatric inpatient facility, the director recalls that she would have numerous one-on-one sessions with this inmate, but that there's not actually any client notes for those particular days, even though it was 2 or 3 times a week in a closed-door room. Which is also why it's not surprising to learn that in one of the phone calls that was recorded, the correction officers can hear the patient being told, quote, "She got pregnant from his little swimmers," end quote, but had to terminate the pregnancy for medical reasons. Now, at this point, her employer tells her that she is formally under investigation, and she, of course, immediately calls the patient and tells him that she, quote, "got rolled up on," end quote, and was told to, quote, "pack your shit." But she also shares in these phone messages that were recorded that she's actually okay with all this because she just wants to get to visit him more and get married, which they do a few months later. In fact, she also changes the name on her driver's license to reflect this. And no, technically she was never fired. See, she resigned because, again, in her words to her supervisor's request for a meeting, she simply replied, quote, "I ain't coming to this interrogation, so you can go ahead and cancel." Her license has since been revoked. So, thank you for joining me for another episode of Stupid Shit You Shouldn't Do If You Want to Keep Your Therapy License. Stay tuned for the next episode, I guess. Unless we can hopefully get therapists to stop doing this kind of shit.